Ambassador Elena Vasquez adjusted her diplomatic uniform one final time before the shuttle touched down on Kepler Station. The neutral ground had been chosen carefully, a space station orbiting a dead star, equidistant from both human and Zephyrian territories. What should have been routine peace negotiations had taken an unexpected turn when intelligence reports confirmed what everyone had feared. The Zephyrians were bringing a Ravik to the talks. The Ravik were the galaxy's most feared apex predators, 8-foot-tall creatures with razor-sharp claws, acidic saliva, and a pack mentality that had made them the perfect enforcers for the Zephyrian Empire. Bringing one to peace talks was either supreme arrogance or a deliberate provocation. The Galactic Council had protested, but the Zephyrians claimed it was merely their cultural advisor. Elena's aide, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chun, nervously checked her datapad. Ambassador, the press is calling this unprecedented. No one's ever brought a Ravik to diplomatic proceedings before. First time for everything, Elena replied calmly, watching through the viewport as Kepler Station grew larger. Besides, we're not going empty-handed. Chun raised an eyebrow. Ma'am? Elena smiled. Tell me, Sarah, what do you know about Siberian? Tigers? The docking bay was a carefully orchestrated ballet of security protocols. 3 different species security forces maintained the perimeter, while ambassadors from a dozen worlds observed from elevated platforms. The Zephyrians had arrived first, their delegation a collection of tall, blue-skinned humanoids with elongated skulls and silver eyes that missed nothing. At their center stood their apex predator Ravik, named Korvath, whose black scales seemed to absorb light itself. When the human shuttle touched down, the assembled crowd expected to see the usual diplomatic entourage. Instead, Ambassador Vasquez emerged followed by her staff, and walking calmly beside her on a titanium-reinforced leash was 300 pounds of orange and black striped death. The tiger, a magnificent male named Sasha, padded silently across the docking bay floor, his amber eyes scanning the crowd with the same predatory assessment his ancestors had used in the forests of Earth. Every being in the bay took an involuntary step backward except for the Ravik, who tilted its head in what might have been curiosity or challenge. Zephyrian Ambassador Thekmer approached, his silver eyes wide with what Elena hoped was surprise rather than anger. Ambassador Vasquez, I must protest this ... irregularity. The Galactic Accords clearly state, Article 12, Section 4, Elena interrupted smoothly. Each delegation may bring cultural advisors deemed necessary for understanding species-specific contexts. I believe those were your exact words when you brought Korvath. The Ravik stepped forward and Sasha's ears flicked forward in response. 2 apex predators regarded each other across the space between species and worlds. Korvath's mandibles clicked in what Elena's briefings had identified as mild interest. Your advisor is a mere animal, Thekmer said dismissively. Elena's smile could have frozen hydrogen. So is yours. The peace talks began an hour later in Kepler Station's main conference chamber. The room had been modified with reinforced barriers and additional security, though Elena noticed the other delegates kept glancing nervously between the 2 predators. Korvath lounged in a specially designed alcove, his dark eyes never leaving the human delegation. Sasha lay at Elena's feet, apparently asleep, but for the occasional twitch of his tail that suggested he was very much aware of everything around him. The Zephyrian Empire demands immediate withdrawal from the Proxima sectors. Ambassador Thekmer began, his translated words carrying the weight of absolute authority. Our expansion into these regions is a matter of survival. Elena leaned back in her chair, one hand absently scratching behind Sasha's ears. Interesting definition of survival. Our intelligence suggests your population growth has been stable for 3 centuries. This seems more like opportunistic expansion. You dare question our motivations? Thekmer's voice rose, and Korvath shifted in his alcove, claws extending. Slightly, the sound was barely audible, a low rumble that seemed to come from the floor itself. Sasha had opened one amber eye and was looking directly at the Ravik. The rumble deepened, and every being in the room felt it in their bones. It was a sound that spoke to something primal, something that remembered when tooth and claw ruled the world. Corvath's head tilted again, and his mandibles clicked rapidly, what Elena's briefings had identified as either agitation or excitement. "Fascinating," Dr. Yeltar, the Altarian xenobiologist observing the talks, whispered to his colleague. "The human's predator is demonstrating territorial display behavior. Look how the Ravik is responding. That's not aggression. That's single quotes S. recognition." The talks continued, but something had shifted in the room's dynamic. Every time the Zephyrians made an aggressive demand, Sasha would make some small movement of stretch, a yawn that displayed impressive fangs, or simply opening his eyes to regard the room with predatory calm. And each time, Corvath would respond with his own subtle display. During the first recess, Elena found herself approached by Corvath's handler, a Zephyrian military officer whose name translated roughly to Claw Speaker. "Your beast," the officer said in broken galactic standard. "It shows respect challenge. Corvath is ... curious." Elena nodded thoughtfully. Sasha recognizes another apex predator. On Earth, tigers are solitary hunters. They don't need pack tactics or technological advantages. Just strength, intelligence, and patience. The officer's silver eyes narrowed. "You bring message with beast choice." "Perhaps," Elena said diplomatically. When talks resumed, Ambassador Dekmar's tone had moderated considerably. The Zephyrians were still demanding concessions, but their absolute ultimatums had become negotiable positions. Elena noticed Corvath, watching Sasha with something approaching respect, while Sasha continued his masterful display of controlled lethality. The breakthrough came during the third day. A minor dispute over mining rights in the Kepler belt had escalated into shouting. Matched between delegations when Sasha suddenly stood, stretched, and walked to the center of the room. Every voice fell silent as the tiger sat down directly between the two arguing groups, wrapped his tail around his paws, and began to groom himself with complete indifference to the political chaos around him. The message was unmistakable. Awe. This noise and posturing was beneath the notice of a true predator. Corvath's mandibles clicked in what Elena had learned was Ravik laughter. "Perhaps," Ambassador Dekmar said quietly, "we should focus on practical solutions rather than territorial displays." 3 days later, the Proxima Accords were signed, establishing a joint human Zephyrian development zone with shared resources and mutual defense agreements. As Elena prepared to return to Earth, she found Corvath approaching Sasha one final time. The Ravik extended one clawed hand, and Sasha sniffed it carefully before allowing a brief touch to his massive head. A moment of understanding passed between. Two perfect killing machines from different worlds. "Your advisor chose well," Dekmar told Elena as they prepared to depart. Elena smiled, watching Sasha pad calmly toward the shuttle. "On Earth, we have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. But sometimes, Ambassador, it's better to carry a tiger." As the human shuttle departed Kepler Station, Elena reflected on the negotiations. The Zephyrians had brought a predator to demonstrate their strength. The humans had brought one to demonstrate something far more important, that strength without wisdom was just noise. But true power spoke in whispers and moved with the confident grace of a tiger who knew exactly what he was capable of. In the end, the galaxy had learned something new about humanity that day. They didn't just survive because they were clever or adaptable. They survived because they understood predators, because in many ways they were predators themselves, wrapped in diplomatic protocols and civilized manners. And sometimes, Elena thought as Sasha settled down for the journey home, the galaxy needed to be reminded of that fact.